10 habits to be emotionally strong. Stoic Zen. Have you ever felt like your emotions control you more than you control them? What if emotional strength wasn't about suppressing feelings, but learning to master them with clarity and grace? And what if your greatest power wasn't in how loud you react, but in how still you remain inside? Welcome to the Stoic Zen path, where strength isn't about force, it's about inner order, mental clarity, emotional sovereignty. In this reflection, we'll explore 10 timeless habits that will transform the way you relate to your mind, your emotions, and the world around you. These aren't tricks. They're not surface-level fixes, they're disciplines of the soul, and when practiced consistently, they become the quiet foundation of unshakable emotional power. Habit 1. Focus on what you can control. How much of your anxiety comes from things that were never yours to fix? How many sleepless nights were spent replaying conversations you can't rewrite? And how often have you felt powerless, not because you lacked strength, but because you gave it away? The first habit of emotional strength is also the most liberating. Learn to separate what is yours from what is not, what is within your control from what is merely noise. This is where the Stoic path begins. Epictetus taught it plainly. Some things are up to us and some things are not. Your thoughts, your actions, your choices, your effort, those are yours. Other people's opinions, the weather, the economy, the past, those are not. It sounds simple, but it requires practice. Because most people live in reverse. They obsess over what others think, trying to change perception instead of character. They try to control outcomes instead of showing up with intention. They try to fix people instead of managing their own response. And the result? Burnout, frustration, endless emotional fatigue. But the Stoic lives differently. When things go wrong, he asks, "Did I do what I could with wisdom? Is this mine to carry? Or am I reaching for something I was never meant to hold?" This shift brings instant clarity, because when you focus on what you control, you stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing and start choosing. You stop spinning in circles and finally walk forward with grounded purpose. Here's how to live this habit. Begin your day by naming what is within your power. Write it, feel it, own it. When tension rises, pause. Ask, "Is this mine?" If not, breathe. Release it. When your mind races with worry, anchor yourself with this question. What can I do right now with what I have? That's where your power lives. Not in control over life, but in mastery of self. Not in changing the world, but in changing your stance within it. And day by day, as you return to what is truly yours, you will feel your strength grow. Not louder, but deeper. Not forced, but unshakable. This is where emotional resilience begins. Right here, with clarity, with simplicity, with the courage to let go of what was never yours and take full responsibility for what is. Habit 2. Practice. Emotional awareness. Without judgment. What if your emotions weren't problems to fix, but signals to understand? What if sadness didn't mean weakness and anger didn't make you wrong? What if emotional strength began not with control, but with compassion? In the Stoic tradition, emotions are not denied. They are studied, listened to, faced without fear or shame. Marcus Aurelius didn't pretend to be unshakable. He wrote about his anger, his doubt, his grief, but he didn't let them define him. He observed them with clarity and without panic. Because here's the truth. You are not your emotions. You are the space that notices them. And the power lies not in feeling less, but in judging yourself less. Too often we label emotions as good or bad. We say, I shouldn't feel this, or what's wrong with me? But the Stoic says, what is, simply is. Let me see it clearly. That's emotional maturity, the ability to feel fully without drowning, to face discomfort without shame, to say, this is fear, this is sorrow, this is anger, and still remain present. So how do you live this habit? When emotion rises, name it gently. This is sadness, not I am sad. Don't rush to solve or fix, just observe. Feel it move through the body, let it speak, but don't obey it. Blindly ask, what is this emotion pointing me toward? Often behind fear is a desire for safety. Behind anger, a longing for justice. Behind shame, a hunger for connection. The goal is not numbness. The goal is awareness without attachment, feeling without collapse, space without suppression. Over time, your relationship with emotion changes. You stop fighting your inner world. You start listening to it. And that listening becomes leadership. Because the person who can feel deeply and still remain centered, that person is rare and powerful and free. So don't fear your feelings. Feel them with awareness, and let that awareness become your greatest strength. Habit 3. Respond. Instead of react. How many regrets are born from what we say in the heat of the moment? How much damage is done not by the world but by our unfiltered reactions to it? And what if real power lies not in reacting faster, but in responding slower? The Stoic path teaches this. Your first impulse is not your final truth. There is a space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies your entire strength. Most people react. Something triggers them, and they strike back, verbally, emotionally, mentally. They match energy with energy, fire with fire. But the Stoic doesn't meet chaos with chaos. He meets it with pause. He meets it with presence. He meets it with a simple but powerful practice. Wait. Breathe. Choose. Marcus Aurelius didn't just face adversity. He ruled through it. And not once did he write, I wish I had spoken faster. But he often reminded himself to watch, to wait, to master his response. Why? Because what you say in anger can't be unsaid. What you do in panic can't be undone. And what you react to without thinking can become what you later regret. So how do you live this habit? When tension rises, take a conscious breath before speaking. 1 second of space can save 1,000 apologies. Ask yourself, am I reacting from ego or responding from clarity? Repeat silently, let me be the still one in this moment. Responding doesn't mean you're passive, it means you're centered. It means you choose your energy instead of letting the world assign it to you. Because emotional strength isn't loud. It's quiet, It's the kind of silence that diffuses arguments, the kind of stillness that redirects conflict, the kind of presence that changes the temperature of a room without raising your voice. Reacting is instinct. Responding is mastery. And when you master that space between, you no longer lose yourself in the storm. You become the calm that leads others through it. Habit 4. Hold your boundaries with calm. Why do we feel guilty for protecting our peace? Why do we shrink when we say no, as if our needs are a burden, not a right? And what if real emotional strength is not in pushing back louder, but in standing firm, silently? Boundaries are not walls. They are doors. They say, "This is where I end and where the world begins." Most people avoid setting them. They fear conflict, rejection, being seen as rude or selfish. So they say yes when they mean no. They tolerate what breaks them, and they slowly betray themselves in the name of being nice. But the Stoic does not fear discomfort. The Stoic values alignment over approval, because emotional strength isn't just about what you carry. It's also about what you refuse to carry, what you return to sender, calmly, clearly, with no need to justify. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Let the wrongdoer be, the harm lies in your own response." And that's the core of boundary work. You don't control what others do. You control what you allow. So how do you hold your boundaries with calm? Get clear on what crosses your line, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. When the moment comes, speak without emotion, say less, mean more. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Don't over-explain. Boundaries are not debates. They are declarations of value, yours. And yes, some will push back. Some will guilt you, test you, accuse you. Let them, because the boundary is not for them. It's for you. For the version of you that no longer self-abandons just to keep the peace. Here's the paradox. When you protect your peace, you offer others the real you, whole, present, unresentful. And that is the most generous version you can give. So speak your boundary, hold it with grace, and know that no strength is louder than a calm no, spoken once and held with conviction. Habit 5. Choose discipline. Over drama, do you want peace or attention? Do you want results or excuses? Because every day you're choosing between two lives, the life of drama or the life of discipline. Most people choose drama, not because they want chaos, but because it's familiar, comfortable, immediate. Drama feels good for a moment. It gives you someone to blame, something to talk about, a way to feel significant without doing the work. But discipline? It's quieter. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand attention. It simply builds, brick by brick, while others are still distracted by noise. Marcus Aurelius never wrote about chasing comfort. He wrote about doing what needed to be done, regardless of mood. Because that's what emotional strength looks like. Not a perfect day, but a steady practice, especially when it's inconvenient. Here's the truth no one wants to admit. You will never feel like doing the hard thing, not at first. But you do it anyway, not because it's easy, but because it's aligned. Discipline is not punishment. It's devotion. It's choosing consistency over chaos, structure over excuses, long-term clarity over short-term relief. So how do you live this? Create a structure that honors your values, even when motivation is absent. Cut off distractions at the root. Don't just try to manage them. Eliminate what feeds your drama. Ask yourself, what would my strongest self do next? Then do it, without negotiating. And the beauty is, the more you practice discipline, the more freedom you gain. Because when you live with intention, you no longer need the highs of chaos to feel alive. You wake up calm. You move with purpose. You rest without guilt. And the world? It may stay loud, but you become quiet, steady, unmoved. Choose discipline. Not because it's glamorous, but because it's the path that actually leads somewhere, while drama keeps you circling the same fire. Habit 6. Honor your commitments to yourself. How often do you keep your word to others and break it with yourself? How many promises have you made in silence only to abandon when no one was watching? And what if your self-trust isn't built by what you say, but by what you follow through on? We often think integrity is about how we treat others, but the deepest form of integrity is how we treat ourselves. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." That's not a motivational quote. It's a command, a call to action. Because emotional strength doesn't begin with willpower. It begins with self-respect. When you tell yourself, "I will wake early," and you do, your identity shifts. When you say, "I will show up for my practice," and you keep showing up, your confidence grows. Not because you're perfect, but because you're proving over time, "I can count on myself." That is sacred, and it cannot be bought. It must be earned daily. So how do you live this habit? Start small. Don't set 10 promises. Set one, something meaningful, and keep it. Track your word. Each time you follow through, note it. Not for ego, but to remind your mind, "I show up." When you're tempted to quit, ask, "If I break this, what message am I sending to the part of me that's watching?" Because someone is watching. You. Your deeper self. And when you abandon your word, a quiet erosion begins, but when you honor it, even when no one sees, you become unshakable. You walk taller. You speak with weight. You no longer need to convince anyone, because your life becomes the evidence. This is the root of emotional strength, not loud confidence, but quiet consistency, not public applause, but private self-respect. Habit 7. Let go of what drains you. What if the heaviness you carry isn't from what's around you, but from what you refuse to release? What if your exhaustion isn't from doing too much, but from holding on too long? And what if freedom isn't something you chase, but something you choose by letting go? Most people don't break from the weight of life. They break from the weight of what they won't put down. Old grudges, outgrown identities, toxic relationships, unfinished conversations that still live in their mind like ghosts. But the Stoic knows this. Peace isn't found in addition, it's found in subtraction. You don't need more. You need less of what weakens you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." We could also add, "If it is not nourishing, don't keep carrying it." Letting go is not passive, it's active. Clarity. It says, I release this, not because it doesn't matter, but because I matter more. So how do you live this? Scan your life gently. What people, habits, or thoughts leave you feeling drained, not once but consistently? Ask yourself, if I wasn't afraid, would I still hold this? Then, piece by piece, begin the quiet art of release. Not with rage, with reverence. This isn't about cutting ties impulsively. It's about reclaiming your energy, because everything you hold has a cost, and you only have so much space. So let go, not to escape life, but to finally live it, fully, freely, awake. You don't rise by holding more. You rise by carrying less. Let go, so you can lift off. Habit 8. Stop explaining yourself to everyone. Why do you feel the need to defend your peace? Why must every decision come with a justification, every no with an apology? And what if real confidence isn't found in convincing others, but in standing quietly in your own clarity? Here's the truth most people forget. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself they can understand. Not everyone deserves access to your motives. Not everyone has earned the right to your reasoning. The Stoics knew this deeply. They didn't perform their integrity. They lived it, simply, silently, steadily. Marcus Aurelius didn't announce his virtue. He acted from it. And if someone misunderstood, that was theirs to wrestle with, not his to untangle. Because here's the Stoic truth. Explaining yourself constantly is emotional leakage. It drains your strength. It shifts your center of gravity from inner alignment to outer approval. And it makes you forget the only person you're truly accountable to, yourself. So how do you live this habit? When you feel the urge to over-explain, pause, ask, am I seeking understanding or validation? Let your no be a full sentence. Let your decision stand on the quiet ground of self-awareness. Know this, the people who truly respect you don't need endless explanations, and the ones who demand them rarely care to understand anyway. There's power in saying nothing, not as a weapon, as a boundary, as a quiet signal that says, I know who I am and I don't need you to agree in order to move forward. And no, this isn't cold, it's clear. And clarity is kindness. To others, yes, but first, to yourself. So, stop explaining, start embodying, let your presence speak, and let your silence teach others where your energy no longer flows. Habit 9. Regulate before you speak. How many relationships are damaged not by what was said, but by how it was said? How many moments of truth were lost beneath a wave of unchecked emotion? And what if the strength of your voice comes not from its volume, but from the clarity behind it? Words carry weight, but words spoken without regulation, they don't land, they pierce, they scatter. The Stoic doesn't speak just to release tension. He speaks to build connection. He doesn't speak from the storm, he waits for stillness. Because from that stillness, truth flows cleaner, stronger, wiser. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you can avoid speaking in anger, you will avoid speaking words you'll regret. That's not passivity, it's precision. To regulate before you speak is to honor the moment. To say, I care enough about this space, this person, this truth, to not let my emotion lead the way. So how do you live this habit? When emotion rises, pause, say nothing. Let your nervous system settle before your mouth opens. Ask yourself, do I want to release this or communicate it? Breathe. Speak slower. Use fewer words. Let silence surround your sentences. It sharpens them. When you live this way, something changes. Your words stop being reactions. They become instruments, intentional, weighted, respected. Because people don't remember the loudest voice. They remember the one that came from depth, from composure, from quiet strength. So regulate first, speak second, and let your voice rise, not from impulse, but from integrity. Habit 10. Train yourself to sit with discomfort. Most people run from discomfort. They numb it, scroll past it, drown it in busyness, noise, or distraction. But here's the truth. What you avoid doesn't disappear. It just grows in the dark. The Stoic doesn't run. He sits. He breathes. He stays. Not because it's easy, but because freedom lives on the other side of discomfort. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining." That's not brutality. That's clarity. A call to stand still in the fire long enough to realize it can't burn what you've made peace with. Discomfort isn't the enemy. It's the doorway to growth, to strength, to truth. Because pain reveals. It reveals what matters, what's unhealed, what you're attached to, and what parts of you still need your attention, not your escape. So how do you train for discomfort? Start small, delay gratification, sit with hunger, listen without interrupting, speak your truth even if your voice shakes. When discomfort arises, don't rush to solve it. Observe it. Ask, what's beneath this? What is this moment trying to teach me? Remind yourself, you've survived every discomfort so far. The next one will not destroy you. And over time, something shifts. What once felt unbearable becomes familiar. Not painless, but purposeful. You become steady. Still. Available for the full range of life. Not just the comfortable parts. This is the essence of emotional strength. Not escaping what's hard, but learning to stay, to breathe, to endure, to grow. Because every time you sit with discomfort, you become less ruled by fear and more ruled by freedom. If something in this journey spoke to your soul, a sentence, a silence, a sense of recognition, then don't let it pass. At Stoic Zen, we are not building perfection. We are practicing presence. We are not chasing success. We are training strength of mind. This space is for those who seek stillness in a chaotic world, truth in the face of noise, and peace that isn't shaken by circumstance. Subscribe if your path aligns. Not for us, but for you. So that you continue walking deeper, quieter, stronger. Stay calm, stay clear, stay stoic.